Good to see everybody. Good morning. It's good to see. I can't believe how many of you actually showed up. This is incredible. It's my first time being on camera. It's going to be a little awkward and shy. I'm not exactly how this works. Brent just gave me the keys to his Mac Pro, and I just kind of was like, "You got it, buddy. I'm in there. It's anything you need. Just please don't watch the stream. It's going to be a little bit awkward." So today I'm going to be explaining to you exactly how I create all these missing index recommendations. Dee Toby, ye of little faith, come on! I can keep it up for years. I've been doing this for forever, man. Since I remember the days back when the office team loved me. When I was like artificial intelligence before there was artificial intelligence. No, those were the good old days. I was a cutting edge. It was like machine learning. No one would learn from me. It's kind of disappointing. All right, so I'm going to teach you now how I build missing index requests, the way that I go through and build them in SQL Server. So, and all these scripts will be available on, I was going to say my blog, but Brent's blog. They won't give me a blog. It's really hard for me to type because, yeah. So anyway, so I'm going to go create a table, and I've called my table, let's see here, where is man, it's really hard to use a trackpad with these. So I've called check on Brent's meds. Brent hasn't taken his meds in years. It's unbelievable. So I'm going to go create a table, and we're going to call this table my dining room table, which is kind of ironic because I can't really eat with these either. I tend to eat a lot of soup. I just put my face down into the bowl. Getting a little rusty. It's been a little while. So I create this table, my dining room table, and I'm putting 6 columns. I was going to say 6, but I guess I'm going to need 2 hands in order to, explain this to you. I'm going to use 6 columns, it's just like my fingers without my thumbs. I'm going to have 6 columns in the table. I'm going to have column 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And then I'm going to load that table up with 10 million rows. I'm just going to put 10 million rows in it and call it a day. So I've already created this, so I can show you the contents of it if I just go do a select star. Goodness, my asthma. So, no, sadly, there's no Count Chocula, but that would have made a really good cereal joke, CGS. That would have been really funny. So now I've selected the top 100 just to kind of show you what the contents are so that you can see the stuff that's inside the dining room table. So there are 10 million rows that are absolutely identical. And now as I run queries against this table, you'll see what kind of missing index recommendations I have. Yeah, I do need Mr. Bill as a sidekick. Kurt, that would be kind of funny. So now I'm going to start with a really simple query. I'm going to go say, "Hi, Mom," because sometimes Brent's mom actually turns in and watches the webcast. So if I look at this query, now keep in mind that the dining room table has no indexes on it at all. It was done by a really crappy database administrator, kind of like, Brent. So if I go and run this query scans that table with 10 million rows, but it doesn't actually produce any rows. I need an index. I want to avoid cop reading the entire table every time this query executes. So this is where I come in. See here, this big missing index request. This big missing index request that says, hey, it really would help if you had an index on the dining room table. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to right click on here and go show me the missing index details. And so this is where I pipe up and I say, hey buddy, looks like you're trying to query the dining room table. Sure would help if you had an index on the first column. I'm kind of proud of that, actually. I was able to raise just one. Look, it might say L for loser, but come on now, that's not funny. So here, this is what I'm really good at. If I see that you're querying by just 1 or 2 columns, no, you seriously, my mom actually does show up. It's kind of funny how this works. Now, she's probably going to disown me when she sees this, but family. So if I say, "Hi, Mom," from dining room table, where first column equals 0, I create an index suggestion on the first column. And if I turn around and I do the same thing for the second column of the table, If I execute that query, see, that's really selective too. No rows returned at all. If I go look at the missing index recommendation, here's your buddy Clippy going, hey buddy, I see that you're querying the table by the second column. I'm not really gonna, oh, I can hold up 2 fingers. Ignore the thumb for a second. So if I Reggie's disowning, listen buddy, we're coworkers, you and me. Now, in a minute, I'm going to get a promotion to Postgres. I just know it. Any day now, Postgres is going to call me up. They're going to love me. I'm really big in Japan. So now, hi, Shavi. Hi, good to see you again. Oh, I guess we're meeting for the first time. It's me, Clippy, the dancing paperclip. So, Brent does need an outfit for the stupid SQL Server voice as well. It probably would, given the voice he uses, that voice is kind of mean. It's kind of angry and kind of stupid. It might be like I was going to say a tank top, but the politically incorrect slang for tank top. I'm not sure that I'm allowed to say that. I would lose my job at Microsoft. So that's how Clippy works when you're just doing really simple queries. When you just say, go select the first column, or you go select the second column, presto, I give you these nice, easy missing index requests. Now, what happens though when I use 2 columns? If I turn around and I say, hi mom, where the first column equals 0 and the second column equals 0. Now, what do you think the index recommendation is going to be? Tell me over there in chat, do you think it's going to be column 1 or column 2? Or column 1, then column 2, then column 2, column 1. You got a lot, or none. I guess you could say, maybe you might guess that I'd be lazy on the job, but I would be very disappointed if you thought I was going to give up that quickly. This isn't really that hard. Y'all run queries like this all the time. I got to come up with this stuff. So let's see. So Botsco says 1 and 2. Botsco, you've always been one of my favorites. So column 1, then column 2. Let's go see what happens. D. Toby says the same thing. Hey, what do you know? Y'all got it. I recommended the first column and then the second column. Okay, that's pretty good. So now, see, y'all, we're on the same page. You and me, we're friends. You're my buddy. So now let's try another query, though. Let's try it for the second column and the first column. If I execute that, what do you think the missing index recommendation is going to be now? Do you think it's going to be column 1, column 2? Or column 2, then column 1? Gringo Malbec. That's an interesting. So you're a white person who drinks Malbec, but you like Mexico, I suppose. That's interesting. So now we're getting different ones. So some of y'all say column 1, column 2. Some of you say column 2, comma 1. Let's see what Clippy, that's me. See, I shouldn't use the third person. What I came up with. And look at what we have here. I said first column, then second column. Hot damn, I'm good with these fingers. So I said first column and then second column. Now that's weird because I know what you thought. You thought that just because my voice was kind of dorky, that I might do second column, then first column. Listen up. The order of what you put in the where clause doesn't have anything to do with query processing. You know that. SQL Server doesn't work through that in order. Just because I have a high voice doesn't mean I'm dumb. I'm like Mike Tyson, only with bigger hands. Mike Tyson would be afraid of me, just how big these hands are. Also, I can't put my first finger down. Oh, whatever, comes in useful later. So now, I see how, what's cool about this is that the same index really will help both of these queries. The same index, first column, then second column, would help both of these queries. But here's the thing. I'm not looking at things like uniqueness of each column. I can't. I don't have the time. I don't have a watch. I don't have anything that I could put on. I don't have any, sort of have a place for a watch. Zeus Hero says I'm going to dance too. Look, I'm not your monkey. I work hard enough just trying to fix your crappy T-sequel. Pay attention. Dancing. You go get yourself a side job if you want somebody who dances for money. Go down to the strip mall. You know what I'm talking about. The order of the where clause is ignored. See, yes, TJ, you're absolutely right. So now, with that, now you kind of know that I'm doing it in some kind of predictable order. And the way that you can tell is that if you view the execution plan. If I go in here and right-click and say, show me the execution plan, this is the data that I'm working off of right here. See, and I tell you, I'm transparent. It's just that most of you don't know how to read, or you won't take the time to read. My mother taught me how to read. Anyway, so my mother, true story, my mother, Clippy, was Melinda Gates. Look it up. Bill Gates' wife was the project manager for Clippy. If you read her interview in Vanity Fair, she actually says I'm the only thing that she's ever been ashamed of. Kind of disappointed by that. She's the one who married Bill Gates. She should have plenty of things she's disappointed of. So anyway, so we're doing an equality search because your query asks for first column equals something and second column equals something. When you do a couple of equality searches, I go by the column order that they are in the table. So the first column goes first and the second column goes second. That's all the time I have. I don't mean for this session. I have a lot more time. I'm not doing much these days ever since the people at office laid me off. But if I look at that, I've only got so little time to build this. If I right-click in on the execution plan and I go into the properties, I did all this work in 1 millisecond. One. I'd like to see you think that fast, meatbag. You can't even read a query in 1 millisecond, let alone come up with missing index recommendations. Hell, I've seen you work for 10, 15 seconds just trying to read some of the terrible queries that you run against me. You should be ashamed. You should also wash your hands. Not talking about the virus either. I'm talking about your terrible queries. So I'm even trying to keep my language here for this webcast. Brent told me that this is a safe for family webcast, but I'm not so sure. I've seen his queries. It's pretty terrible. Ha, Lee, Lee, I know you're trying to look up my pants. I know how this works. I've seen your private webcasts. All right, so what about if I look at selectivity on queries? See, the thing is, the first column, all of the rows match 1, remember? If I say, go get me all the rows just where first column equals 1, that's all the rows. This search isn't selective at all. But if I put in something that's very unselective, like first column equals 1, and then something that's very selective, like second column equals 0, what's going to happen now? So remember, this doesn't eliminate any rows at all, but this one eliminates all of the rows. So what do you think? Do you think this is going to be an index on the first column, then the second column, or the second column, and then the first column, or maybe just the second column? I could index just the second column, and it would instantly eliminate all of the reads that I need to do. Big Mike, I know what you just want to get a peek at me, don't you? Oh, you want to see my profile. You want to see me on a dating site, don't you, Mike? I know how it is. It's the voice. Brings all the boys to the yard. Okay, so CGS and OD both say first and second. And as it turns out, you're absolutely correct. Yes, look, all I have the time to do is quickly create indexes. I'm not allowed to actually see the data inside your table. I don't know what's going to be selective or what's not going to be selective. The only thing that matters is just the order of the columns in the table. And you can see that if you go into the execution plan. See how it says first column, second column? That's the order that they're in. Yeah, CGS, there are a lot of things I like playing. You can join in sometime. I got real big hands. Fraud says, are there statistics involved? And unfortunately, well, because this is CGS's fetish, I'll go ahead and play that. No, there are no statistics involved. Sorry. Yeah, just know it's not how it works at all. The only thing that matters is the order of the columns in the table, not selectivity, not the order that they are in the where clause. It really all just comes down to what you're querying for, what order are they in the table. Now, I should say it gets just a little bit more complicated than that. So far, we've been doing equality searches. Now, I'm going to throw in inequality searches, and I'm going to say, tell me all of the rows where first column is anything other than 1, and second column is anything other than 1. If I execute that, yeah, I still build an index on the first column and then the second column. But if I go into that XML, if I go into, and I don't know you meatbags are scared of XML, but it's really not that bad. Of course, you're just scared of anything that involves in reading. You're just lazy, no good. All you want is videos with moving pictures and cartoons. You like cartoons, don't you? Maybe we need a cartoon interface to SQL Server Management Studio. Then you people will stop screwing around and just looking for something. That's why you liked Wizards, too. If we had G.I. Joe and He-Man in here, y'all would finally get some work done. So what we're doing is we're doing inequality. Well, what you're doing is inequality searches on the first column and then the second column. So here's the deal. I group the equality searches first and then the inequality searches second. Kurt, it's not your ears that are hurting. So now, if I go back in and I start mixing those, if I start mixing equality and inequality searches, so here I'm saying go find all the rows where the first column equals something and the second column does not equal something. No, I'm not hi, Oswaldo. Oh, you just meant to say hi. Hi, Oswaldo. Yeah, all right. So now I'm mixing it up per CGS's request. He likes it both ways. So CGS says, why don't you mix it up? Here we're going to do both equality and inequality searches. Now if I look at the XML, see how it says the equality columns group together, ordered by the column that they are in the table. Then the inequality searches ordered by the column they are in the table. So Scott says, Scott says, wait till Brent features this on his YouTube channel. It's going to be amazing. So that's how that's built. That's how missing index recommendations are built. So I want you to remember this because this is very important. It's also very simple. Even a meatbag like you can handle this. It's the equality columns ordered by the column that they are in the table. Then it's the inequality columns ordered by the column that they are in the table. You got that, meatbags? It's pretty simple. Because now it's your turn. Now, I'm going to see how fast you are on the draw, big mouth. You're always making fun of me. Maybe it's just Brent that makes fun of me in classes. But now it's going to be your turn. I'm going to show you queries, and I want you to come up with the missing index requests that I'm going to make. Because you know the rules now. You know exactly how I think. Brent's always on about how the engine thinks, how to think like the engine. So now it's turn to learn how Clippy thinks. Show me what you got. So the equality columns go first, ordered by the column that they are in the table. The inequality columns go second, ordered by the columns that they are in the table. So let's go look at some queries and go see what y'all come up with. So let's try this one. I'm going to start with a training wheel. I'm going to flat out tell you what's an equality search and what's an inequality. When I run this query, what's the missing index recommendation going to be from me? Like, what's my index recommendation? Do you see how fast I executed that? Boom, done. Boom, done. You meatbags like CGS, no, Dtovey gets pretty close. Dtovey gets in there first. So Dtovey says, and look at that. Oh yeah, Dtovey, that's pretty awesome. Santi, I have a really big keyboard. Oh, it's giant. It's like takes up 4 feet across. So that's exactly right. David and Avi got it as well. Let's go in and look at the XML so that y'all can see it for those slow folks out in the audience, like Panal. So now what we have in here is we have the equality searches go first. Now the second column is the second column in the table, but he's still going first here because he's the first equality search. The equality ones go first here. Hi, Banal. Wasn't sure if you were still listening. Love you, buddy. You should blog about me more often. We have good times together. Okay, so that's that one. Now let's try another one. So let's try is null and is not null. What do you think the missing index recommendation is going to be for this one? So let's see what you come up with. So I'm looking for first column is null and second column is not null. See what we have here. Y'all take a little bit of time. Oh, still okay, all right. So you got first column and then second column. And let's see what we got. Look at that! Warm round of applause. Y'all hardly suck at all. Brent kept telling me that y'all weren't that bright. I disagree. I think y'all are probably very bright. He just never gives you a chance. So let's try this one. So let's say where third column equals 0 and fourth column is anything other than 1. What's the index recommendation going to be here? Price-wise says 3 and then 4. And look what we got. Oh, y'all are just fantastic. I swear it's amazing. Oh, I got to watch out for my job. They keep saying that the cloud is going to take my job. I hear all those thought leader blog posts saying that we should be worried about our jobs. I'm worried about my job, and I think y'all are coming for my job because you're not paid very much. You're paid even less than I am. Okay, how about this one? Let's say where fourth column is anything other than 1 and second column equals 0. What's the missing index recommendation going to be? Oh, you're so fast. Oh, you move quick. I bet you get complaints from the ladies as fast as you move. Woo, that's smooth. I don't know about smooth, but it's quick. Oh, this is going downhill fast. I better watch my mouth. You're absolutely right. Very good job. Let's get it a little bit harder. So let's say where first column is anything other than second column. I'm listening. Jim says 1 then 2. Price-wise 1 then 2. Well, so here's the thing. I can't actually do that. Because if you are going to go through and scan all of the rows, because realistically, that's what I have to do. I can't seek in. My work is really all about how can I seek in as quickly as possible. Seek just to the rows that I'm looking for. There's no sneaking here. Oh, I like to sneak around, let me just tell you. But there's no seeking here. I can't seek directly into one specific area of the table. So I'm highly optimized. I know you might find that so hard to believe. I'm highly optimized for things where I can seek directly into one place. But if I can't seek in, I'm not going to bother creating an index for it. Now, you could, because you have the time, but I don't. I just only have so little time when I'm building these missing index recommendations. If we look at the execution plan, I literally did this in 0 milliseconds. The people who work in the SQL Server engine, they're mean. They're like your project managers who are Oh, CGS, that was pretty good. I like that. You're absolutely right. I like to hide from the authorities. It's not that many of you are very authoritarian inside here. But they don't give me any time, so I'm not allowed to go in and do that kind of analysis. If you want to build a query or an index like that, you could, but you know what I would also say is you probably shouldn't be writing things like that. That's bad SQL. You have to scan the table to figure that out. All right, how about this one? Let's come back to a simpler little bit of a query. Whoopsie. It's hard with those big, huge fingers. So let's try this one. See what you do here. Man, y'all are so slow. You're so slow. Come on. The time's ticking. We got to execute the queries. All right, so I like Jim's answer. Jim says 331. Jim wants to index the same column twice. Brent says I'm stupid. Whew. Maybe he was right about his audience. Not too sure about y'all. All right, so let's go see what I did. So we did 3, 4, and then 1. Because third is the first equality search inside here, then fourth is the second equality search. Listen, you boneheads doing 4, 3, 1, it has nothing to do with the order of the where clause. What the hell? Were you not paying attention? Did you show up late? I swear to God, these human slackers. If I go in here into the execution plans XML, here you can see what's going on. It says you're doing an equality search on the third column and then the fourth column. See how it shows you the ID of the column inside the table? CGS, you're just being nice to him because he says you're smart. You're not really that smart. Not even that attractive. He said you were attractive. I don't know what's going on with that. So here I group things together by equality search, or equality searches first, ordered by the column that they are in the table, then inequality searches second, ordered by the columns that they are in the table. So even though this right here is column number 1, he still goes third inside that index. I'm getting pretty good with these fingers. I'm going to show you what I do with these fingers later, maybe if we do the side camera. Okay, so good. So some of you got it. Some of you, I had to go a little slow there in terms of the explanation. Let's try one more. So let's try this one and execute. And then I'm going to zoom in to show it to you. What's going to be the missing index? Oh, imtiaz. I like that. That's a pretty good joke. I might remember that and keep that. Lee, yes. All right, so what do we got now? So Jim says 324. So 324, that's interesting. You're pretty close. Pinal says 2314. Okay, all right, that's interesting. All right, we got people all over the place. We got some disagreements. I hear that about you people. I hear the meatbags disagree a lot. So let's go in and I'm sorry about that. So listen, here's the deal. If I think that you're going to be examining most of the columns in the table, I'm like, it doesn't make sense to create an index that wide. Now look, I gotta apologize. Sometimes I go a little over the top with the includes. Sometimes I tell you that you should include every column inside the table, and I really shouldn't do that. I'm trying to get better. And sometimes when I look at you getting lots of stuff out of the table, I don't bother creating a missing index recommendation, and I probably should. But you have all this time on your hands because you're a lazy meatbag. I'm sorry, I didn't say that out loud. But you have all this time on your hands because you're playing Fortnite or whatever it is that you people do. When you go see a query like this, you could do better because you have all that time. You could manually create an index on like whatever columns you need that will be the most selective because you have the time to look at selectivity. I'm not allowed to. So if you were going to create an index on this, what you might say is, hey, go look at any column that's really selective. And since none of them are null, all you would really need to do is create an index on the second column. And this query would be, as those kids say, hella fast. You could also, for a pro tip, you could also define your columns as not nullable. If you define things as not nullable, then I don't even have to look at the table. I can just instantly look at the metadata, and I can avoid even touching the table. David, I'm not making a fool of you. You're already a fool. I'm just pointing out the obvious. Not really that obvious. You don't smell that bad. Deodorant. All right. So, big picture overview. That's the deal. The equality searches go first, inequality searches go second. And all of the columns, when I'm picking column order, I'm just slinging them out there based on the order that they are in the table. It has absolutely nothing to do with selectivity. It has nothing to do with your where clauses order. All it is the equality for searches go first, ordered by the column that they are in the table, and the inequality searches go second, ordered by the column that they are in the table. Those are my rules, but they're not your rules. If you want to learn your own rules, you go to things like Brent. Why would someone use null on a non-nullable column? Why would someone name their account after a dish? Well, would you call yourself Mrs. Taco or Mr. Gumbo? That doesn't make any damn sense. People are weird. All right, so let's stop here for a second, and we're going to give a brief shout out to this week's sponsor. So this week's sponsor is Quest Software. Quest Software has just delivered a brand new fundamental guide to query tuning optimization. So you can go read that, and you can be way smarter than Clippy is. If you go to brentozar.com/go/optimization, you can see that guide absolutely for free. Doesn't cost you a cent. Just like this webcast. It's free entertainment. I know it kind of looks like boobs, but it's just because the thing gathered up real tight. Yeah, it's not so bad. You should have seen me when I bought it. Oh, this is kind of awkward. You don't want to do public fittings for these kinds of things. All right, so we'll take a 4-minute bio break, and then we'll come back. We'll talk about some other stuff. So I'll see y'all back here in 5 minutes or so. Okay, welcome back. Oh, I think I need to adjust that lighting just a second here. So, welcome back, party people. Did you have fun with that? I have a ton of fun with that. So, I've wanted to do that for the longest time. For ever since that I thought of the whole Clippy as a SQL Server voice, I'm like, how could I get that in a way that I could present at it? And I think it's getting closer. I think I have some work that I need to do in order to get it to the point where Toby said, what did your wife think? She helped me with the costume, actually. So originally, when we were going to do this, she wanted to build a 3D Clippy costume. She wanted to get like pipe cleaners or pipes, like plastic pipes, so that I could walk around as an actual paperclip at a conference. And when she really still wants to do that, she was like specking out all the parts and everything. But it was an easier way to do it just with the green screen type effect. So it was super simple. Galbugga says, were you not too hot in that suit? It's actually really light. It's just a lycra or like polyester suit. There's this whole brand of adult entertainment that centers around suits like that. And I don't remember exactly what the term is. And if I tell you the wrong adult entertainment term, you're going to Google for it and bad things are going to happen. Not that there are any good adult entertainment terms that are like safe to Google about. So I try to mix it up too with different ways of doing things. So that's version 1, and I'll tell you what I'm working on next for version 2, because I always like to show you all the streamers, the kind of the behind the scenes fun stuff before I like put it on the blog or my training material or stuff like that. Okay, good. It's a early dev. That's the one that I thought it was, and good to see you again, early dev. That's the term I thought it was, but I wasn't sure. I was like, if I turn around and Google that, things are going to go south real fast in my browser history. So, but a friend of mine said, yes, exactly, yes. So good. So howdy weekend morning, folks. So I just wanted to get that out there and be done with that. And then I'll do another round of it in like a version 2, when my wife and I are working on a full-blown suit for him. And then I also want to pre-record video bits. So I want to have basically a discussion going back and forth between Brent and Clippy. I'm going to pre-record what Brent says and have him come on and off the screen. So we'll do with that. Is Zentai. It could be either of those. I'm not quite sure which one of those two it is, but I know it's not not something I want to do straight out. But gradually building up what I want to do in terms of those presentations. All right. So if y'all have any questions, fire away. Otherwise, that's really the only thing that I wanted to show you this morning. That exact demo will be on the blog Monday morning with the T-SQL and everything, so you can repeat it and show it to your coworkers. Because I think that so many people out there think that the missing index requests have some kind of science behind them, and all they are is just literally equality searches ordered by the column they are in inequality, or column they are in the table, inequality searches ordered by the column they are in the table, and that's it. That's all there is to it. So that's also why you can do so much better. They're better than nothing. I mean, they're a long shot better than nothing, but they're just not nearly as good as what you could do for yourself within the span of 60, 90 seconds looking at the query. Mm-hmm. Yeah, Gaurav, you can ask anything that you want. That's totally cool, unless it involves what I do with that suit in my spare time, in which case I might decline. Santi says, is there a rule of like beyond how many columns are being used in the query that the missing index will disappear? I have price-wise, yeah, exactly. And price-wise, I'll talk about that in a second. I haven't run experiments far enough to see what the exact balancing number is. There was a point on a few streams ago where I did a quick round of testing, and it looked like it was about 50% of the columns in the table. But I haven't gone far enough to see that for sure. Like even with I want to say with a table with 20 columns, if I had 5 or 6 columns in the where clause, then all of a sudden I stopped getting missing index recommendations.
And I'll go through them in order. So price-wise about the Quest CEO. So I used to work for Quest Software, and I used to work in the marketing department. Oh my God, it was like 10 years ago. I was a SQL Server person working in the marketing department, but one of their things was, yeah, and IBEC, yes, absolutely. One of their things was you want to entertain at the same time you're teaching people, because if you entertain at the same time you're teaching people, they're more likely to remember, they're more likely to talk about it. So they love stuff like this, which they're very thankful for their support. They're wonderful. Yeah, Jim says Hope Helmet is outside downtown Portland. That's it's so funny. So I do kind of worry about stuff like that if he's outside somewhere. But thankfully, this car place has got warehouses, locks, and all that kind of thing, so it's good. The next one was Kooky Girl says, if you have an index on a column 1 and an index on column 2, will it still need an index that includes both columns together? Most likely, as long as one of them is very selective, as long as one of them really narrows down SQL Server's search result space, an index on one column will help so much. He may still ask for both because it's fairly unusual that SQL Server uses two together, but it can happen, and I'll show you. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep up with our dining room table example here. Oh, let's go ahead and get rid of Clippy's mask because I don't need that anymore. Where the hell's my mouse? There it is. So let's get rid of Clippy's mask. There he goes. All right, that's much better. So let's say Clippy's ghost. Yeah, exactly. Let's create an index. Create index column. First column on DBO. Dining room. Can't remember if it's called dining room table or if it was just called dining room. First column. Then let's do the same thing with the second column. Second column on DBO dining room, second column. And then let's do a query, select star from DBO users. Here we'll create the second index while I create it. There that goes. It's not users, it's dining room, where first column equals 0 and second column equals 0. Now, because I haven't looked at this in advance, I don't actually know what Clippy's going to do here, or what the SQL Server engine is going to do here. Let me tell you what his choices are. So, because I always like to guess before I actually go and look. One choice would be he could use either index. He could use just the first column index by itself, or he could use just the second column index by itself. In that case, either of those indexes would be fine. They would mostly get the point across. The other thing he could do is he could use both indexes. He could look up all the people who have first column equals 0 on one index. He could go look all the people whose second column equals 0 on the other index and then merge the two. So let's see what he did. So in this case, he said the first column index by itself is so selective that that's the only thing that I need, and he didn't bother using both indexes. But let me show you a more realistic query. So over in the users table, those of you who've watched me use the users table at Stack Overflow, stackoverflow.com is that question and answer site where you post a question, everybody else does all the hard work. So they publish their database over Creative Commons so that you can go and download it and use it for demos. You can learn more about that at brentozar.com/go/querystack, and it's all totally open source. You can go see the contents of it. I like it so much more than most sample databases because it's really real world relevant. It has data skew and data distribution, just like your real world tables. So the ones that I'm going to use here, the columns that I'm going to use for the demo I'm about to write are display name and location. I'm going to create an index on each of those because they're both free text columns that people can type in whatever they want. So I'm going to create an index, create index display name on DBO users, display name, and I'm going to create an index location on DBO users, location. So I'm going to create both of those indexes, and then I'm going to go write a query. I'm going to say select star from DBO users where display name equals Brent Ozar and location equals San Diego. Ill Will, you really missed out this morning. CAUS. Now, SQL Server has to make the choice. Should he look up all of the Brents and then get their select star, or should he, and you know what I'll do? I'll make it a little less selective. Well, we'll start there and see what happens. So now let's go see what SQL Server decides to do. And let's see if he uses both of the indexes. Let me go back over and get the plan. And in this one, Brent, or the display name equals Brent Ozar, is still so selective that all he needs to do is touch one index and he's done. But what happens if I make it way less selective? Like, for example, what if I say display name like Brent and location like San Diego? Let's see as we make this a little less selective. Let's see what happens. Oop, copy this out here. And then look at that. And check that out. Here, SQL Server chose to go look up all of the Brents and then look all of the people who live in San Diego, merge them together, and then only do key lookups for the people who matched both of those. So the answer to your question there is, will an index individually on each column be helpful, or will we still sometimes need one on both? If you're lucky, if one column by itself is selective enough, you're done. That's all you have to worry about. If you need two columns in order to narrow things down, SQL Server may use both indexes. All right, so we'll come back over. Santi asks, is select star the reason for that? Nope. Unless you just selected stuff inside the index. That, of course, is different. That would be a covering index. So coming back over to the chat, looking back at the list of stuff, we'll come back over here. Guarev says, if I create a view on a partition table, will it be beneficial from a performance perspective? Views are generally just syntactical sugar that make it easier for querying. Views generally don't help you for performance. An indexed view, that's something different, but generally you don't want an indexed view on a partition table. Generally you don't want non-aligned indexes on a partition table. And fraud, exactly. That's exactly the answer for the reason that we're doing there, or the demo that we did just there. Fraud says, what's the best way to discover where there are missing indexes? For me, that's SP Blitz Index. SP Blitz Index is a stored procedure originally written by Kendra Little, and it's open source. It's licensed with MIT licensing, so you can use it at work. You can charge people for it, for consulting, whatever you want to do. SP Blitz Index, and if you Google out there, I've got articles on how to use it. I've got videos where I use it, stuff like that. D Tovi says we have IBM Maximo and OpenText context server, and most of the tables in the system are heaps. This must affect query performance. Yeah, absolutely. So heaps are literally tables organized in random order. So if you want to find data, random order is generally what we call bad. Random order is generally not performant. There are cases where heaps make sense, like as a staging table, where you just load a bunch of stuff in every day and then you drop it all every night. But that's the exception rather than the rule. There are also some cases in data warehouses where they make sense. David, I had a query choosing a bad execution plan. After clearing it from cache, it still chose the bad plan. Building a new index, all of a sudden it started creating a better plan, although it didn't use the newly created index. Why? What happens is when you create an index on a column, SQL Server also creates statistics on that same column. A statistic is one 8K page of metadata. So one 8K page of data about the contents of the index. So armed with those statistics, all of a sudden SQL Server may go, oh my God, wait, now that I know what's inside that column, I'm going to make totally different decisions. So that's one way it can do it. Another way that it can do it is tables with no indexes whatsoever tend to get what are called trivial plans. If SQL Server believes that a query is so simple, there's only one way that it can execute it, then you may get a trivial execution plan where SQL Server just didn't put much more thought into it. I'll show you how that works. So if I go back over to my demos, and I'm going to use a command, I'm going to say drop indexes, which just drops all of the indexes on my tables. It keeps the clustered indexes, but it drops the non-clustered ones. That's not inside SQL Server by default. That's something that if you Google for Brento's R drop indexes, it's free and open source out there, so you can go put it inside yours. So if I drop my indexes and I start out with nothing, and I say select star from DBO users where display name equals, or we'll go with this, where reputation equals 2, and I look at the execution plan, let's look over here at this. Oh, I actually got one. Oh, that's kind of cool. Let's try a different one. Let's try where 1, and see, oh, let's just get the estimated plan. Nope, I still got it. Hold on a second here. Drop indexes. Let's see if we can get one. Select. Let's try. Oh, well, we'll go where location equals. There's no way I'm going to be able to type this live. Location equals Ahmedabad, India. Let's see if that actually works. No, in every case, okay, so forget it. I'm not going to try and do that demo live anymore because it's absolutely doing stupid. Oh, let me switch to a different database. This will make a difference. So drop indexes and execute, and then let's try that. Okay, beautiful. So here I have no indexes on this table, and see, I'm telling SQL Server, hey, go show me all the users who live in Ahmedabad, India, and I'm probably spelling that incorrectly. However, SQL Server's like, I got no idea how you could possibly make that faster. You know, there's no missing index request or anything like that. The reason why is that SQL Server thought that that query was trivially simple. It said, my optimization level here is trivial because this query is so simple, I don't have to put much work into it. But if I create, so there are a couple things I want you to notice about this plan. One is that there's no missing index recommendation. 2, there's no parallelism. But now, this is going to seem weird. If I create index age on DBO users age, this is totally unrelated column. Has nothing to do with the column that we're querying. But now if I go back and I rerun that exact same query again and I look at the execution plan, all of a sudden we have our buddy Clippy in here. Hey buddy, oh, I see that you're querying by age. I got an idea. The reason isn't because, Clippy was drunk. He just doesn't show up for work. I heard that. He doesn't show up until we start doing full optimization. So there are a couple of extremes in there. I go into much more details on this of fundamentals of index tuning. So David, the reason why I'm telling you this is if you didn't have any indexes and then you added the first one, that would also cause this problem. Let's see here. So what do we got next? Dtovi said they have index. Oh, that might be a different one. Let's go back over to this. 7, and I'll hit, there were a couple other questions that came into as well. 7 Live says, is it a good idea to regularly update statistics? I use Ola's script to do this, but not that. So it depends on how much your data's changing. In a system that's got 10 years worth of data and it's not really changing that often, then stats changes don't really affect you that much. But if you have a very volatile system where the data inside there keeps changing, you keep getting new customers, new products, and sales for new dates, then you probably want to update index or update statistics. For me, I actually usually update statistics more often than I maintain indexes, as backwards as that sounds. Let's see here. Junior DBA says, is there a way to make inserts faster? Yes. You're welcome. Ninjalino, oh, you wanted to know what it is? Oh, you should have asked that. In order to make inserts faster, the first thing that you do is don't have any extra indexes on your tables. Every extra index that you add is going to slow down inserts, updates, and deletes. So that's just the very first place that I go and start. Make sure that I have enough indexes to make my queries go fast, but not so many that they slow down my inserts, updates, and deletes. You want to use my death method from the Fundamentals and Mastering Index Tuning classes to accomplish that. Ninjalino says we use a lot of XML in our database. Some of the XML nodes are queried often. Do you have a recommended blog or your training that has more information on selective indexes? So I don't have anything on that, but I'll point you towards one that you can see. So if you go look in this thing called Google, no, I'm not going to tell you to just go Google that. If you search for Burt Wagner JSON index, so Burt has this really, where's the name of it? That's it right there. So if you search for this, it'll come up in there. One SQL cheat code for blazing fast JSON queries. There's a technique in there that you can use for XML queries as well. Let's see, what do we have next? Gringo Malbec, one of my favorite new names for a while, says SP Blitz Index, does that include Clippy's recommendations or is it ours? Those are Clippy's. We take it straight from Clippy's mouth. In SQL Constant Care, we actually give you much more detailed recommendations. We look at your usage of the table over time. We compare, make sure that the same index recommendations are showing up day after day, that it's just not a one-time thing. Then we dedupe it, we merge it down, compare your existing indexes and stuff like that. But it takes much more computational time, so that's why we do it server side inside our SQL Constant Care product rather than trying to do it in a DMV script. Let's see what else we got here. So coming back down through the questions that have come in. Anna asks, when exactly does it make sense in a data warehouse to have heaps apart from staging tables? Fact tables are another good example. When you have a data warehouse, you often can't guess what people are going to query. You can't guess what columns they're going to use on a fact table. You can't guess what they're going to filter on, what they're going to group by, or what they're going to order by. And so many of the reports are different. So there's a strategy in data warehouses. It's not the only strategy, but one of the strategies that you can use inside of data warehouses is just to make your fact tables heaps and assume that every query that hits that fact table is going to scan the whole entire thing. And then you tune your storage for scanning heaps so that it can scan as quickly as possible. That design pattern is called the Microsoft Fast Track Data Warehouse Reference Architecture. So I'm going to type that out just so that you've got it over there in Slack. Microsoft Fast Track Data Warehouse Reference Architecture. And if you Google for that, you'll find a bunch of, I wonder why I didn't do that. Oh, let me throw it in on Twitch. Let's see here, Twitch. And then I'll put a note over in Slack, Microsoft Fast Track in Slack, Microsoft. Let me mute myself on Twitch or else that's going to get awkward. Fast Track Data Warehouse Reference Architecture. Put that in just so that you can see it there. If you Google for that, there's a bunch of documentation. It's really good documentation. It's not necessarily, it's not the only way to design data warehouses, but you asked about when people use heaps. That's one of the times they use heaps in a data warehouse. Let's see here. Tristan says, hi Brent, shall we specify if we want a clustered or non-clustered index? Yes, and to learn more about that, watch my free course, How to Think Like the Engine. If you search for Brent Ozar, How to Think Like the SQL Server Engine, I explain the differences between those two types of indexes, when you use each one, and so forth. And then finally, Jim says, I like that you'll point people to information even if it's not your information. Kudos to you. My pleasure. I'm always all about just helping people whatever way makes sense for them. And I don't have all the good info out there. There's so many people out there who've written so much good stuff. I always try to get the spotlight on new bloggers to try and get the word out there to as many people as possible. Oh, Santi says, and I missed that, Santi. I remember seeing that as I was scrolling by. Does full ensure that SQL Server checked for all possible routes? No. And I talk about that more in my mastering index tuning class. I'm sorry, mastering query tuning class. In the mastering query tuning class, I explain the different levels of optimization and the kinds of things that get skipped when you see full, but it actually timed out early. Moshiko says, how do you design a complicated DB? I mean, in a bigger scale. Carefully. If you want to see something interesting about how to design applications and databases, there was a cool article that came out recently. My bookmarks are available live over at Pinboard, and I'll go put this up on Slack as well here. Let's go put this in and dump that out in Slack, my live bookmarks there. Just so that you can see it. So here are my live bookmarks, and inside here there was, where's the new architecture one? If you come on in, I could have swore it was in there. Damn, it was in our weekly newsletter recently, and I might not have put it inside my bookmarks. Okay, just start. Yeah, no. How do you design a more complicated database? Ask me more about what you what you mean by how, because it sounds like it's really a whole entire course that you're asking for there. Kooky Girl says, Blitz index is our first go-to. Blitz index isn't showing any missing indexes. However, Clippy's asking for one on a column and include the rest. So what we do in SP Blitz index is that we filter out. An index must have been asked for a lot. We don't put in indexes, or we don't recommend that you do indexes when there are queries that only ran every now and then. Because every query would love to have its own handcrafted index. You just can't afford to do that. It slows down your inserts, updates, and deletes. If the query that you're trying to run is absolutely mission critical and it must go fast even though it doesn't run that often, then that's when you can start looking at adding those kinds of edge case indexes. D-Tovi says, I know this isn't directly about indexes, but do you normally enable RCSI or only when you feel like it's required? I enable it on all new applications. Oh, thank you, Ashton. I appreciate it. Thank you. Welcome to the club. I appreciate it. Give me a back rub there. I really appreciate that. RCSI, I love it for new application builds. I just don't do it on existing applications because it can break, or it can induce race conditions inside your code. If you want to learn more about that, go to brentozar.com/go/RCSI. brentozar.com/go/RCSI, and Kendra has a really long post that explains the gotchas with RCSI and race conditions. Bob the Lobster, good to see you again, says, hi from the UK. Do you know when us Brits and EU people will be able to buy your training classes? Well, here's the deal, damn it. You're freaking countries. So the EU decided to break down the Privacy Shield laws this week, or Privacy Shield thing last week, I think it was. So that pretty much vaporized my ability to sell training classes to the EU. That's the end of that. So maybe talk to your politicians and maybe don't have them put in laws that are impossible for tiny, small companies to comply with without costing an arm and a leg. We've kicked around the idea of selling recorded classes through a distributor in the EU, but the pricing on it would be, brace yourself high, because I would want to make sure that the things didn't get out on BitTorrent, for example. Let's see here. Han says, what is the N before queries for? That means Unicode. When you put an N before a string in SQL Server, that means that the string is going to be Unicode. Pricewise says, did California bring in similar GDPR type legislation? Yes, but the minimum business size is really big. California, I think, really did it the right way, where it only focuses on large companies like Facebook, Amazon, stuff like that. Contact administrator says, hi Brent, how is memory optimized working in comparison to other technologies? I don't use memory optimized at all, and if you search on my blog for SQL Server memory optimized tables, you'll see why. I've written extensively about the problems with memory optimized tables. Just go buy the RAM. You don't need to change your database, just put the RAM in there and call it a day. Mashiko says, do you have questions on Udemy? No, because they're like $10. I don't know about you, but I think my stuff's worth a hell of a lot more than $10. I'm like, if all I'm going to make is $10, I'm just going to give it to you for free. What's the point in charging for that? Like, I'd rather get it out there so people can have it. $10. I'm like, it's like selling burgers for a quarter. That doesn't make sense. America says the same thing. What about Udemy? Yeah, no, they just they're allowed to drop your prices whenever they want. And then at that point, you only make like $3 or $4 per course sale. I'm like, if I'm going to do it for $3 or $4, just give it away. What's the point of making any money at all? I got hobbies to pay for. But Keir says, what to consider first for optimizing a query? Should I look at page spills or high memory grants? It really all comes down to what's your server's primary bottleneck? What's the biggest thing slowing down the server as a whole? Mark is good with that. Yeah, I bet. So the thing slowing down the server as a whole, that tends to be the thing that you optimize for. It's kind of like having a car. If you have a car and you're trying to get to 200 miles an hour, you don't really pay attention to the stickers on the back. Like that's not the thing that's going to stop you from going faster. You need to know about the thing that's stopping you from going faster, and that's where things like weight stats come in. Duke says, will you be presenting at Virtual Pass this year? No, I'm not doing that. I know some other folks are, but no, I'm skipping that one this year. I'm decided that as long as you're buying virtual courses, you just should buy them from me directly. What's the point of having a middle person? Because especially middle persons won't let me do an experience like this. Like the quality that you see in here with the streaming video, high definition video, your high definition audio, the questions popping up on screen, the ability to do all these cool transformations and all that, you just don't get with other people's conference platforms. So, but you do get the ability to stop into vendors for spam. So if that's the kind of thing you're interested, you have that. SQL Sucks on Twitch says, is this session going to be available on Twitch? SQL Session, you know that website where you're typing things in at and you're asking if it's going to be available there? Look at your browser. Yes, it's going to be available there, the place where you're watching it. This is what you have to deal with. Santi says, when can we see you and Penal doing a combined session? We did recently. We did one about a month, 2 months ago for Quest. So if you sign up for those Quest things that I keep pushing over in the sidebar there, which by all means, let's go give them a shout out again. So when you sign up for stuff from Quest like this at brentozar.com/go/optimization, you get on their mailing list and then they alert you when people like Penal and I do webcasts together. I have 3 webcasts coming up for Quest in like September, October, November, but I don't think that they're with Penal this time around. We'll see how that goes. Pricewise got our weekly links, and he says he was surprised about the link about not having sex with your cousin by accident. Iceland has a really tiny population. There are only like 300,000 people who live in Iceland. So it's really easy to accidentally go out and date and have sex with someone that you're actually related to. I'm mesmerized by Iceland. I just love it so much. There's so many cool things about it. Rajesh says, how do missing indexes go with order by clause? One of the things that I love about these kinds of demos is that you can go see. You can go take my exact queries and use the Stack Overflow database, and you can see how it works. You can run experiments and then see. You're going to be disappointed. Too busy to play says, how often do you stream on Twitch? I do on Saturdays and Sundays, every Saturday and Sunday at 6 a.m. Pacific for the next couple of months. Then during the week, I kind of switch in just whenever I have holes in my schedule and I'm not doing client stuff, then I dive bomb in and jump in. Let's see. Gar Masala says, could you please explain some differences between SQL Server level backup versus database backup? It's a big enough question that I can't do it quickly, but I do cover it in my Fundamentals of Database Administration class. If you go to brentozar.com and click on Training up at the top, there's a Fundamentals of Database Administration class, and I spend about an hour on that. I've been there, Imtiaz. I've absolutely been there. That's wonderful. And Penal, thanks for putting in the link there with the recording, and you can watch Penal and I's website, or we're recording together. Mirka says, is Penal's available on Pluralsight? Have you ever checked his platform? Pluralsight won't let me do stuff like this. Won't let me do the video, the transitions, longer sessions. Like everything on Pluralsight is 90 seconds. It's not exactly 90 seconds, but it feels that way. And I'm like, I can't watch that. It's like, I'm like, oh man, come on. That's crazy. I like going more just straight in depth and going off the cuff and things like that. SQL Suck says, sometimes I don't find your sessions afterwards on Twitch, so I asked. Yeah, and that's fair. I was giving you a hard time. But the real deal is that when I record my private training classes, I stream live on Twitch just so people can watch me record it, but those get vaporized and go just to my paid training classes. So that's why you don't see those. But ain't nobody going to pay money to watch me dress up in a Lycra suit and pretend like I'm clean. Price wise, yep, she knows about that one. She's got her DVR set for that one. Very cool. All right, so I'm going to stop there, and I actually have a client this morning. Normally I stream until about 8 a.m. When my coffee shop opens, but I actually have a client this morning to do emergency performance tuning, so I'm going to be working with them starting this morning. So thanks a lot for hanging out with me, y'all. I hope that y'all had fun watching Clippy, and I will see y'all again tomorrow. I'll be on tomorrow at 6 a.m. Pacific, same time I was on this morning. So adios, y'all. Have fun, and see you later.